Welcome back to the Urban Suburban Garden. In this week's video, let's start here in the corn section here. As you can see, the tassels are huge on these 4 plants there. And I'm gonna show you some other ones that are starting to emerge between the leaves, like this one here. See how well that one's starting to develop and come up out of there. It's not growing as fast as the other 4 plants here, but everything looks good. You'll see that the silks are starting to develop on some of the corn heads that are there. And if you scan right up top, the tassels are right above it, and it would be dropping the seedlings of the pollen from here straight down to here. And what I did was I cut this piece off, this piece of tassel from here, and I went straight down to the silks here, and I just rubbed it all over the silks. So we guaranteed some pollination to get the all the corn ears. But yeah, watching a couple other growers, it was saying if you don't pollinate each one of those silks, then you'll have spaces missing in your corn ears. So to prevent that, you can also help the plant out by just pollinating it yourself. That's what I just did there. But there's quite a few other ones growing in here, and they're getting started. Here soon, we'll have full corn ears on these corn plants. But let's take a look over at the other side of the corn section. And these plants here, these corns were planted 2 weeks behind these here. And these here aren't doing as well as these. I'm not sure what's going on with them. My leaves are starting to shrivel. They're a light green. I'm thinking the nitrogen, but I've been on top of the fertilizer, doing the same schedule I gave the other ones on the other side. But these here are just struggling a little bit more, like here. The leaves aren't rolling open like on the other one. They're shriveling up once they come all the way out. And I'm not sure what is causing that. And even like this particular leaf here, I don't see bug damage anywhere. So I was looking for that to see if that was happening. So I'm not sure if that's the case. But again, I don't see bugs. So I've been looking under each one of the leaves, seeing if I see anything crawling around, and I see absolutely nothing. So the only thing else I could think of is my medium, my soil, the nutrients, and try to figure out if that's my issue. So I'll be doing more research during the course of this week to try to find out what's the culprit and try to correct it before these things get any bigger, so we don't have a loss on this side. But other than that, in this section here, we're doing great. One other thing, the trellis that I put here. Now the reason why I put this here, and again, I'm a new grower, first time ever growing corn. I've seen other growers doing corn, but in the fields, not in containers. They would heel up the corn. That's building the soil up around this side, the bottom base of the corn. So if they ever had windstorms, the corn would have more support. So since I'm growing in these containers, I decided, well, hell, I can just give them support by using this bamboo that I had and making a little small trellis. And if the wind gets pretty strong in the area, it will support it and won't let it topple over. And it works great. But as I realize, as the corn matures and gets pretty big, they have extra roots that come up out of these tops. The roots are so big and strong that I actually had enough medium in each one of these squares here, 6 squares in this section here, and each one of these plants have a 12 by 12 by 10 inch section to themselves. And the root system gets pretty big. And as you can see, the roots are coming out of the side of the stalk there, and they run all across their section of this pot, and they're pretty stable. So there's really no need for me to add a trellis. So in the future, when I do the corn, I won't waste my time building a trellis for it. But it was fun doing it anyway, and it did work. So that's why I won't be putting it on the smaller corn plants that I have right next to it, that I put up 2 weeks behind the bigger ones. These are big enough and strong enough to support themselves. And we've had some days where we had some decent wind and they weren't blowing over whatsoever. Okay, we're going to fertilize these plants again this week. Weekly, I fertilize each one of these plants. Well, the bigger ones. The smaller ones I wasn't fertilizing weekly. I was doing bi-weekly when they were smaller. But now that they've gotten to this size, I think that could be part of my problem here. They haven't been fertilized as much as these over here. So these will now get on a weekly basis of fertilization, just like these. With what I'm doing differently this week, I am going to add the top dressing like I normally do, and I'll pop that up on the screen so you can see how I do that. But this particular week here, I made a compost tea. I put my compost in my bag with some earthworm castings, and I do this is down to earth rose and flour, the 484 mix. I add that one tablespoon per gallon. In this situation, I have a 5-gallon bucket, so we did 5 tablespoons. I did 1 cup of earthworm castings and 1 cup of the compost that I use, and I put that inside my my bag here, and I had an air stone inside of here, and I had it bubble for 36 hours. 36 hours, this is what I got from it. What I'm going to do in addition to it to up my nitrogen, I'm going to add my fish plant food, the Alaskan fish fertilizer, which is a 5-1-1, a little bit more nitrogen because corn uses a lot of nitrogen. So I'm just going to add 3 tablespoons of this. This is my tablespoon, and add the 3 tablespoons of this into there, mix it up, and we're going to feed each one of these plants. Now, granted, I've already wet down these plants, so they have water in them, so I don't have to add a lot of this to soak down the plant. So this 5-gallon bucket will take care of this whole section of 10 plants with no problem. So let's get to work. All right, roughly I'm going to be giving each one of these plants 2 of these. This measuring cup is equivalent to 4 cups. So like I said, we try to give each one of these 2 full scoops of this, and that's all. Let's get to work. Welcome back to the Urban Suburban Garden. As you can see, the tassels are all developing on these older plants here, and we have some new ones starting to develop here, and some more back here and back over there. In other words, everything is looking great. The silks are starting to pop up in different locations right up under the tassels. So I have myself taken one of the tassels off and gone down, and I pollinated the silks itself by just rubbing one of these onto this right here. And this one here is the most developed one out of the whole garden, but I see back on the other side some of the silks are starting to pop up from where the corn ears are starting to come up out of the corn. Over on this side over here, these 5 here are all younger. They were having a little trouble in the beginning, and now I think I realized what I was doing wrong: underwatering and underfeeding. Because once I did that, I noticed that like the leaves like this here, which was all bound up and twisted up yesterday, once I gave it the feed, it's starting to open itself back up. And here, see the damage developing here. I thought it may have possibly be bugs, but I think now, after inspecting, didn't see any bugs, that it was definitely me underfeeding the corn plants. Once again, I was top feeding and also using liquid newts, and the bigger ones was getting it once a week. The smaller ones I was waiting, and I was giving them bi-weekly feeds. We are now on weekly along with the bigger ones, and to be honest with you, the last feeding, I think I did it last weekend 3 days later, I came back and gave it a little bit more, and I think it really needed it because the corn has definitely taken off since then, the bigger ones anyway. So I'll do that same process over here. Again, we're all in the soil that I pre-made, and I'm learning that that the tweaks that I need to make that soil a little bit more stronger nutrient wise. I didn't add enough to it to get it through the whole run, and maybe I shouldn't even try to get it to where I'll get it to go through the whole run without having to get add additional newts. But I think it just needs to be a bit stronger because, like I said, on this side here was really affected by that. But other than that, the corn is growing great. They're getting huge. I'm 6 feet tall, and this one here in the back is taller than me. So, and again, they're in bags that are 10 inches. So we take that in consideration. But by the time they finish growing, finish getting the height that they're supposed to get, they'll roughly be about 6 feet tall. And I'll be satisfied with that, especially being this first time I ever grown corn. And I think I'm pretty successful at it so far. I don't want to get ahead of myself until we see some ears with full of corn. So that's all I have for you in this section here. Let's take a look at the next section. Okay, over here in the watermelon section, the vines are starting to run. So I want to do a little experiment over here. I want to run 3 of the watermelon plants vertically. The other one I'm gonna let run across the floor of the garden. Just got to be very careful with it, but I want to see the difference in both ways to do it. And in this situation and with the location of where my watermelons are growing, I think I can get away with it without damaging the one that's going to run across the ground, the floor, and the ones that are going to run vertically. Well, the way I'm going to do the ones that are running vertically, I'm going to use these bamboo poles. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a pole and I'm going to run them in each one of the corners here. Run it down to the bottom. One right here. One right here. One right here. And one right there. Well, actually not the back one, because I'm going to use the fence as my support. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to run bamboo across here. Some shorter stakes, I have some shorter ones, across this way at different levels from the top. 3 different rows, maybe just 2 different rows. Start down here and it'll be roughly about across the plant like that. And I will stake or tie the vines up to the bamboo. And then as the plant continues to grow, let me show you. I'm going to stake it to it like that. And as it continues to grow, we will just continue to strap it to this pole. And then when the watermelons start coming out, I'll show you that part when we get there. But for right now, let me just show you the beginning parts of how I'm going to set this up. And as the watermelon plant grows and start developing the watermelons, I'll show you step by step as we go along. So let me get this part done here. All right, to strap my watermelon vines to the bamboo, I use this Velcro gardening strips. Actually not strips, this is a long roll and you cut as you need, the length that you need. Recyclable materials, and they're great to use because you can reuse these over and over and over again. They never go bad, they're never going to deteriorate. So you would again, you probably get 10 years out of these things after you cut them. So these are this is what I'm going to use along with the bamboo to build my trellis net for the watermelon plants. So let's get to work. All right, here with the watermelon, excuse me. See, I started the trellis, made 4 sections, and I'm going to be running each one of these watermelon vines up one of these bamboo stakes. So we're going to take this one with the Velcro that I showed you. Should have cut it a little smaller, but you get the idea. So it's going to be like that, and it's going to run straight up this bamboo pole, and that's what I'm going to do with that one, and this one here. This one here in the front, though, I'm going to just let run, and I'm going to let it run down here on the ground. Yeah, so I'm going to let this vine out this way onto the ground, and we see what's the difference in letting it grow vertically or letting it grow on the ground. So we'll be keeping an eye on these plants here over the next few weeks, and see how it all develops. Well, that's it for this video, and until next week, like, comment, and subscribe, and y'all have a good day.